I'm very fortunate to have been working with those, great people. It's very unparalleled to have a team that is that motivated to perform better. Literally everybody in this team has like this inner drive to compete and be better than somebody else. That's the only thing I can really ask from people, is the effort. I think that we are more of like a world's team right now than like maybe any other team in Russia.
Поехать на Worlds важно, но важно именно что-то показать там, потому что ехать туда и не показывать ничего, это будет просто кибертуризм, это не очень интересно. С точки зрения подготовки, я думаю, мы находимся примерно в равных условиях. Йолы просто стали выполнять стандарты, которые либо им навязал Шипи, либо они видели где-то еще. Порой эти стандарты просто работают, да, порой они абсолютно не к месту, и это может наказываться.
Гаджет просто MVP-шит. Vega Squadron в пятой карте, полный ПО-5 серии, обыгрывает лидеров континентальной лиги и зарабатывает себе место в гранд-финале.
Против Гамбита это стопроцентный вариант, а с Вегой кто знает, что они придумают. Эко играет с моими бывшими тиммейтами, Крео, Санс и Гаджет, плюс я ему проигрывал дважды в полуфиналах очень обидные серии, после которых я не мог спать. Его выиграть это обязательно, проиграть будет просто неприемлемо.
Пройти финал это не так много значит. Моя логика такова, что если ты не первое место, то неважно, какое ты место занимаешь, что важно только первое место, и все.
Поплутали и взяли. Хорошо инициирует минус дайвер. Для чего-то скачок неплохой. Якорь выходит.
Естественно, я хочу показать хороший результат на Worlds.
Подстанивай двоих, и Бора играют сразу забирать.
На МСА у меня была цель просто пройти туда. Сейчас же у меня есть пройти туда и показать результат.
Во время сезона мы играли плохо, мы где-то зажимались, у нас не было какого-то доверия, грубо говоря, в команде между друг другом. Поэтому нам было сложно найти свою связь, химию. Перед серией с гамбитами мы поговорили в руме, Му нам тоже сказал правильные вещи: не бойтесь побеждать.
Кривокс агрессивный лесник, я агрессивный лесник. Мы знаем, как друг друга, грубо говоря, наказать. Оппонент для меня удобный.
I also wanted Vega to win because we lost the Gambit a few times. So there's like some mental block. When you lose to a team, there's a different feeling when you've only won against them. Well, how it is against Vega, right?
Тут драка начинается, отличная ульта от Тусы. Уже падает Кира и Макс в секундомере. 1 в 2, но вылетает Кайса, делает даблкил и хорошую порцию урона по Листану выдает. Это минус Кассиопея.
Матч Сиол такой очень желанный. Я его ждал с самого начала сплита. Я знал, что мы пройдем в плей-офф, скорее всего. Я очень хотел попасться против них, чтобы доказать, что этот ростер слаб был не лучшим. Если бы остался тот ростер, мы бы 100% были лучшей командой.
Yeah, I understand the storyline between, the old squad and the new squad with Vega. And Inex and Edward, I think, are giving something to the team that Santos and Gadget couldn't. So if we're going to the world stage, or if we're going towards like international scene, then I think we'll perform extremely well too. Kind of can make us win games that we otherwise should.
Duel is going to be harder, but I think we have a chance, and the victory over Gambit is just a confidence boost in ourselves as well, that we can fight them for the title. That's the reason I actually joined Vega, because I felt like I had unfinished business in CIS, so I wanted to come and win the split and go to Worlds.
It's every player's dream or goal to be in Worlds. Even though it's play-ins, it's still Worlds, right? So, and that's why I'm here.
Шанс вернуть чемпионство, которое было очень давно, в далеком 2017-м. Мы просто будем хорошо готовиться и стараться делать все, что мы можем, чтобы достичь этого успеха. Это мечта, это цель, и вот и все.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the LCL Finals. My name is Spike Shorty Alif, and today, finally, I am not alone. I'm gonna have my own brother helping me with casting this game. And right now, we're gonna have the presentation of the finalists. This time around, we have Gambit, who lost to Vega Squadron once again, as they did the previous split. So, even though the anticipated final was Unicorns of Love versus Gambit, we have a new history. We have a new storyline. This is Unicorns of Love, who just came to our league for the first time ever against Vega Squadron, who won the previous split, but in a different roster.
Поприветствуйте команду Vega Squadron!
Let's welcome Vega Squadron on the stage. The Danish player, who is now almost considered Russian, even by himself and his parents. The top laner for Vega Squadron, Doxy! After 1.5 years without finals, this time he's once again in the finals of the LCL. The jungler who imposed the aggressive style on our region. The jungler for Vega Squadron, Creox.
Прошлый год он дважды остановил Номанза. И, возможно, сегодня тот самый день, чтобы закрепить этот
Last year, twice, this man stopped Nomans for getting into the finals. The mid laner for Vega Squadron, Discoteca.
После неудачи на MSI белорусский игрок не опустил руки, а лишь
After the failure at the MSI, the failure of expectations of his own, this player didn't stop playing and continued improving continuously. The ADC for Vega Squadron, Gadget.
Летнего чемпионства у этого ветерана СНГ сцены еще не было.
This veteran of the stage hasn't had the championship of the summer split yet. This is the support of Vega Squadron, Santos.
Наставник Акул был с 3 игроками Virtus.pro, когда они стали чемпионами.
And the coach, who already has won the LCL once, but back in 2017, it's the coach of Vega Squadron, Moo. And this is the complete roster of Vega Squadron.
Команда заявила, что ее цель только первое место. Сегодня мы узнаем, окрасит ли эти игроки СНГ.
The other team is the team that promised that their only goal of their team is to win the split and go to Worlds. Can they turn the LCL pink? It's the Unicorns of Love. And their first player, the top laner, the champion of the spring split, Boss.
Карьера этого игрока как путь непрерывно восходящей звезды, и он уже
The career of this player is constantly rising. He's becoming more and more skillful and successful. It's the jungler of Unicorns of Love, Ananasic.
Горки и Арианна — это прошлое. Пентакилы и рекордные показатели статистики.
Corki and Oriana is left behind in the past. Right now, it's pentakills and the records in every statistic possible. It's the mid laner of Unicorns of Love, Nomans.
Но если болгарский снайпер единорогов сегодня разгромит Акул, ему простят все
Lack of
ошибки.
confidence in the beginning, but the Bulgarian sniper can now shut all the critics up. With his performance, it's the ADC of Unicorns of Love in Axe. And the most experienced player who is leading his team forward, the support, the most well-known player in the entire LCL,
Этот человек воплощение Unicorns of Love. Ведь он с ними с самого начала. Тренер команды Шипи.
And the coach of Unicorns of Love, Shibi, who you have seen in the European Championship in LEC. So this is the complete roster of Unicorns of Love. And this is the cup that only the winner will get today. Who is going to be the strongest one? We'll find out today. Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, hello.
This
How are
is
you
me,
doing, brother?
Vega Squadron LCL, and my brother, Emil Poo Aliyev. Poo with an H in the end.
Yeah,
Don't worry
of course.
about it. Anyway, so as Illidan said to Mofurian, hello, brother.
Hi, hi. How do you feel today?
I'm feeling all right. I'm a bit hyped to see the finals because that's what this entire split was all about. Which team will get to go to Worlds and represent our region there?
I think that many people thought that it is going to be Gambit, but today we're up in a very interesting story. Vega versus Unicorns of Love. Former players Vega versus
Basically former players of Vega.
Yes, true.
Yeah, I remind you guys that the former Vega Squadron roster was Boss, Ananasic, Nomans, Gadget, and Santas. That was the roster that basically won the split, went to MSI. This roster split up, unfortunately.
And now they're fighting.
And
for a
now they're
world
fighting
spot.
against each other. This is like an anime, right?
True.
Something very exciting.
Who is the main character? Gadget?
I think we'll find out who the main character is when we get the winner. Because if Gadget wins this series, and we know that Gadget had an amazing series against Gambit, he was basically the MVP of the entire series.
True.
So if he shows up today, he's going to be the main character. This is going to be his story.
And I think he wants his revenge, to be honest.
He feels rejected. He was deemed unworthy. As Sheepy said, that this new bot lane actually brings more
Than
to the
Gadget and
team
Santas.
than Gadget and Santas. And while it can be true in some aspects of the game, because Edward is way more experienced than Gadget and Santas put together, multiplied by 3, and you know, but we know that Gadget has something unique in him, and this is his fearless component. He has probably the deepest champion pool.
In terms of bot laner, yes, he's like our Perks, in a sense.
I mean, the budget version. The budget version of Perks in our region. Amazing stats as well. He's playing really well. He's playing really aggressively, and I always admire those kind of players just because, for me, the true League of Legends is not about farming for 40 minutes and then winning one team fight. It's about getting every advantage that you can get.
Yeah, there is, like Dopa said, there is no passive and aggressive player. There's correct play and a wrong play. And if you're playing aggressively and it works, it's a correct play.
Yeah, I mean, we cannot, like, basically League of Legends is based around mistakes, right? We cannot expect everyone to perform perfectly. Whoever capitalizes more on the enemy's mistakes is a better player. And his opponent for today is Inax.
Who has decent stats as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have the finals here. We don't have not decent champions. I mean, not decent players here and now. Inax is a new guy in our region. The first time he arrived in this split. His first performances were kind of shaky, I would say. But I mean, he was gaining on and on. He was becoming better and better. And this is the time. This is the time for him to actually show up and prove that his 1,000 points in Challenger is not something to be joked around.
True. But in competitive League of Legends, solo queue can bring you some boost if you're like very high in rank. Like Faker was top 10 in Korea server when he appeared in Pro Play, but it doesn't always work like that.
Yeah, we can talk about necessary and sufficient conditions where being skillful in terms of solo queue is necessary, but it's not sufficient. It's not enough to become the greatest player of all time.
Solo queue is a different game a bit. There's no communication, voice that can like bring down your mechanics a bit if you talk too much. But I think that Inax is playing like role that doesn't require too much talking, like AD carry. So he like 3-4 games and he was okay in our league already, feeling confident.
I only hope that today he will bring up his A game, because this is probably one of the most important matchups in the whole map. I would say the bot lane, the competition. This is basically the thing that we have the storyline about, the new bot lane versus the old one, and who hasn't been dumped and wanted to show up the teas better than the new guy of the girlfriend. Who? I mean, I have. Anyway, so the other important matchup, and very interesting for me personally, is the top lane, which is not as important in terms of meta. We have seen that mostly the league evolved into this hyper carry kind of compositions where basically you have to play around bot lane, you have to rotate bot lane to get Herald, you have to get Dragons, and then you play around your ADC who deals damage. But top lane is still an option. It's we have some variety at least. We have teams who do different things depending on who their carry is. As we seen, for example, in NA, where the Clash Gaming were playing against TSM, they were...
Huni was a threat that game, yes.
Huni was the main focus in terms of like giving him resources. Even though Kori-san performed amazingly well, it's not like he was getting a lot of attention in terms of... It was like the plan for the early game was to get Huni ahead so he can split push, apply pressure, and then get caught all the time. Now, I'm joking, of course. Huni performed amazingly also in this series, especially the gangplank was... Oof, it was
and Aurelia 50 CS ahead in 15 minutes. That was cool as well. But I think that, like, in terms of top lane, matchup is kind of equal. I think in the past, in the previous iterations of the teams, Boss was not better, but he was playing more aggressively. Nowadays, he plays
safe?
Well, but yeah, relatively safe. He doesn't go for plays if Ananasik is not there to cover you up. And nowadays, Ananasik plays through mid a lot, which he was not doing in Dragon Army. So I think it's going to be a farm fest between two top laners.
Yeah, I'm afraid so too. But I would like to see some plays. I would like to see an aggressive matchup. Something, I don't know, Doxy picking his main Jace and trying to apply pressure, and Boss getting something like a Camille trying to, you know, withstand the poke and then all in and outplay his opponent. That's what I'm hoping for. But that's probably not what we're going to see. I mean, in the semifinals, Vega Squadron was picking Karma for Doxy and just leaving him on an island, saying that you're going to be useful anyway. And I mean, Karma works that well. I would say that Karma is one of the expected bans from the Unicorns of Love side, from my point of view. Of course, I may be wrong.
I feel like Karma doesn't fit Unicorns of Love.
At all, yeah.
At all. Nomans is a carry player and Boss is a carry player. And I think that in terms of, again, top lane, Doxy is more flexible. He can perform on Karma and support his team because he has Gadget, and they do trust their main carry. And Unicorns of Love are a different beast, and I think they prefer to see their solo laners on aggressive picks and bot lane doing kind of utility job, maybe.
Yeah, we kind of have the difference in styles when it comes to the overall idea of the play. Even though Edward is like an engine to the Unicorns of Love, where he is the main shot caller, he basically is the director of the game, we can say it that way. But I feel like he prefers to rather roam a lot and like leave his ADC just to farm, where he can play safely.
Kind of like Fnatic, maybe? Fully sung roaming,
something like that. Yeah, we have a lot of like European teams and players, but in the budget version, of course, in our region. But yeah, it's kind of like the clash of the styles, where you have a very aggressive team in the early game who tries to get an early advantage, plays through bot lane and relies on Gadget to be the hyper carry. And we have the other team who is more about academic playstyle, where you get the advantages where you can, where it's...
Depends on matchups.
Yeah, depending on the matchups, where basically you get advantages where the chance of getting an advantage is higher than 50%, where you have to do it. It's the correct way.
You play around your strong sides.
Yes, you play around your strong sides, around your power spikes and stuff. Much more, much less random activities around the map, which is always fun to see and not always fun to do, depending on the result. But it's kind of fun to see how this clash goes, because I'd say that in this season, and as I said before, bot lane is more important. It's not quite the like season 7 time of bot lane with the Ardent meta. Yes, of course, when basically you had like 4 tanks, a hyper carry. I mean, 3 tanks, hyper carry, and the Enchantress support, something like Janna Lulu. Janna Lulu first pick every game. And
Sad meta, very sad meta.
I mean, sad meta for supports for sure, and very good meta for ADCs,
carries.
of course. As Hashinshin says, the most whining class of the League of Legends. We see the huddle right now of the Unicorns of Love. They are discussing the last moments, probably psyching up with some motivational speech just before the game. They were going for the first place since the very beginning. Since this organization came to our league, they were basically stating that they came to win. They didn't come to play. They just want to get the spot at Worlds and advance through the play-in stage, which is kind of a challenge to issue because our teams have struggled before with getting through the play-in stage.
I feel like that's not about even our team, but in general, Worlds format play-ins is worse for a wildcard region because you have to fight a main region in best-of-5 series to get through, or you have to win 2 best-of-1s against the major region to get first place in the group and then fight other wildcard region. For MSI, for example, you lose to a main region team like Flash Wolves or something, and then you play best-of-5 versus wildcard region, and that's beatable. So in order to go through play-ins and get into the groups, any wildcard region team has to perform really well.
I mean, but this is the basic point, right? You shouldn't get any advances in terms of your position in the Worlds just because you're a wildcard team. You want to be part of the best, you have to prove that you're one of the best. And if you want to compete among the main regions, you have to prove that you are on par with the main region teams.
But does it seem fair to you that a wildcard team that played like 14 best-of-1 during split is playing, what, down one gaming? Best-of-5?
I mean, yeah, sure. Imagine if IG didn't win last year and IG had to go through play-ins, which would have been a lot of fun. But it's still experience. I mean, you get to play 2 best-of-1s against down one. That's probably way more important than all the 14 matches against every team in our region. And I'm not trying to BM here. I love my region. I love my country. I'm a patriot. But it's still something that you don't get that much of. And even if there is a chance that you can at least scrim with the LEC teams or something like that, there is almost no chance you can scrim with Korean teams. The difference in the gap is too large, and I wanted to say that's what he said, but I'm not going to. Anyway, and so probably for the wildcard region, the most important thing is the experience that they're gaining from any sort of international cup. And on the other hand, if you manage to perform, if you manage to win at least like one game, you remember Gigabyte Marines? It's not like they were the best team in the world, but people still remember them, and we're gonna have them back, by the way. They just won the Vietnamese League of Legends Championship, so they're coming back with Levi, the main guy who basically...
Best jungler from wildcard regions, I'd say.
I think he's quite on par with some of the best junglers in the world.
I agree.
But we'll see. We have our best junglers on par with the world's. Like, we have the Ananasic versus Kreox today. Ananasic actually performed really well during the MSI. He told me that for him, the greatest achievement was the fact that Lee Sin got banned from him. Anyway, let's get right into the draft. The first game of Unicorns of Love versus Vega Squadron. Let's roll.
And first, immediately Karthus banned from Gadget.
Yes, this is one of the go-to Gadget picks. Go Gadget, pick me Karthus. And Irelia, which is a very important pick for Unicorns of Love. I'd say that it's mainly against boss, but as Noman's told me himself that he plays Irelia and he feels, I don't know.
Comfortable?
He feels comfortable, let's say, yeah.
Syndra ban.
Syndra is banned away by Vega Squadron, which is interesting because I think that was one of the main picks for Vega. Karma is also banned away, and as I said, this is very important. Silas is also another flexible champion that Vega Squadron can flex into 3 positions. What's going to be the last ban? Maybe Aatrox? Or something like that, because we...
Yumi is still open, and she's quite strong in 9.17.
Yes, but I would say that Honestly, I'm more afraid of Yumi on the Vega Squadron side. And Kiana is banned. So we have a lot of OP picks open right now. We have Akali, we have Aatrox, we have Yumi. And something is going to go to Vega Squadron side. And I would say that Yumi is the most dangerous one. And I completely agree that it's going to be first pick by Unicorns.
Is it going to be Talia Pantheon bot lane? Does Pantheon work as a support after rework?
I'd say yes, because the main thing about him to work, was the W. The point-and-click stun was basically the main thing about the Pantheon support, and it's still possible. Actually, right now in solo queue, we've seen that Pantheon is rising up through the ranks. He's not the useless, unplayable garbage as he was called before, by me mostly. So Aatrox is going to be picked away by Vega Squadron, and the second pick, let's see.
I think it's going to be either AD carry, like regular one, or it's going to be Talia Pantheon bot lane for Vega.
They can go for a jungler right now just to get it over with, like a Sejuani.
Oh, okay. It's going to be regular bot lane. It's going to be Zyra Khan into Severe Yumi?
Into Garen Yumi. I was expecting this thing from Vega Squadron, not from Unicorns, but they are showing us that they have been preparing. They haven't been wasting time during those 2 weeks of preparation, and Nomans is going back to his Corki.
Corki's kind of nerfed, right, in this patch already?
This is the patch where he lost, actually I'd say a lot, because his base AD was counted towards the damage from Sheen items and the Trinity Force as well. Rakan is going to be the pick for Vega Squadron, which is more than logical, because otherwise he would have been banned. So it's Zyra Khan and the flex of Aatrox. I would say that I expect the Sejuani ban by Unicorns of Love, because Sejuani fits really well the composition of Vega Squadron. You already have Engage with the Rakan, and you have a lot of sustained DPS coming from Xayah, one of the most broken ADCs right now.
Yeah, and you have melee champion, AD melee champion that Sejuani loves, Aatrox.
Yes, and also I would say that it's very important for Vega Squadron to get the jungler on the 4th pick to continue playing with the Aatrox flexing with the Aatrox, if you will. Gnar is banned away, and we see that Unicorns are not believing right now that this is Aatrox for the top lane, because otherwise you wouldn't ban Gnar, right? This is the matchup that Gnar feels comfortable with.
True, but does Eka play Aatrox? Did he play it in regular
He played
season?
it once in the regular split. It was played once, but if I'm not mistaken, it was played against EPG, the game that wasn't really deciding anything. Sejuani is banned away by Vega Squadron, which is interesting, because I would expect that Vega would pick the Sejuani for themselves on the 4th pick, but I'm not a coach anymore, so I don't have the right to give any advice. And Gragas is going to get banned away, and those are the 2 most important junglers for Kreox right now. Maybe they go for something like a Rek'Sai, something aggressive, something that can apply pressure early on. Gank?
I don't like Rek'Sai in this particular matchup, because they have Garen Yumi, and Rek'Sai isn't really good at killing Garen, and they also have Corki, and Corki is one of like 3-4 mid laners that are good against Rek'Sai. Yes, it's going to be all for early pressure, I guess.
Yeah, early pressure, and I mean, but Olaf has counter picks, and I'm afraid Unicorns can show something like Trundle?
Trundle, Kindred.
I mean,
even Graves is good at all.
You can go for Kindred because you basically don't have an ADC, the classic one. So it's going to be Renekton for the top lane.
And this is semi-blind pick, Renekton, because we don't know where Aatrox is going.
But if Aatrox does end up going top, I'd say that Boss has no problem with this matchup. Aatrox is one of his main picks. He knows the inside and outs of the laning phase. We've seen that Boss just destroyed completely Non-Holly in this matchup. Ooh, it's going to be Kha'Zix. Another good pick into Olaf, because Olaf does like running around the jungle at low HP, because that's where he gets the attack speed bonus from. And Kha'Zix can punish that greatly. And actually, when you have an assassin in your composition and the execution from Garen, it becomes an easy thing to do, right? Kha'Zix jumps on somebody, and then Garen can just ulti, and this is going to be Victor in the mid lane as a counter pick to Corki, something that scales as well. Doesn't fit the same role because Corki is basically a magic damage ADC, whereas Victor is the control mage. But on the side lane, I feel like Corki cannot do anything to Victor, really, unless Victor messes up. Because Victor is probably one of the scariest side laner mages. Even though he's technically a control mage, it's going to add to the wave clearing component of Vega Squadron's squad right now, because you have Xayah, you have Victor, so you can stall the game a bit, but you don't really want to do it because you don't have a clear tank, and Olaf doesn't scale that well, to be fair.
Like, I am looking at Unicorns of Love team, like, in terms of champions, and I'm thinking, what kind of disengage tools they have? They have Yumi's R, and they have Ananasic's W, which will be available only after level 11, right?
Yes, of course.
How do they disengage from Aatrox, Olaf running at them, and
Rakan? Most importantly, Rakan, because I feel like their goal is the fact that they're slippery by themselves. Like Corki has the escape, Kha'Zix is unable to catch, Renekton has an escape, and Garen is just an unkillable tank, especially when Yuumi is attached to him. So it should be hard to focus down anyone from Unicorns of Love. But to be fair, if we look at the composition, at the entire composition, I feel like, once again, if Vega Squadron had the Sejuani there to add up to the engage, to add up to the catch potential that they would have had, with those two carries, when they scale up, you just automatically win the late game. Because, I mean, Garen is a nice pick and all, and he does perform well with Yuumi, but it's still something that doesn't have a complete role in the classic League of Legends. I mean, he's a tank, but he's not as efficient as a tank compared to the tanks. He doesn't have engage. He basically is a kind of a meat shield, like Mundo, you know, something that is hard to kill. He's just
the same class. Juggernaut.
Yeah, he's a Juggernaut, and he's like very annoying. You know, he's the one to be disrupting, but not with CC or something like that. Just with his presence in your face.
Yeah, and this is not like Garen alone on top lane. This is Garen Yuumi combo, and he basically works like a Yuumi taxi, cat taxi. It was called on Reddit.
Yes, exactly, and it's very hard to catch them, and it's very hard to run away from them, because with the Garen speed-ups, with Yuumi speed-ups, with the slow that she provides, with the ulti, whenever you're caught, whenever you're like, you step one step too close to Garen and Yuumi, and you're dead. And considering the fact that Vega does have a squishy setup on their side as well, they don't have a true tank, all of their characters are basically squishies. Yes, I mean, Aatrox is gonna build some HP, Olaf is gonna do the same, but all in all, you have a very immobile mage in the mid lane, and I feel like this is gonna be the point of pressure for Unicorns of Love, because if you gank Victor several times, before he gets the upgrade, before he's able to just clear the wave with just the laser, he's gonna have a bad time.
I totally agree about Victor pick, but who's the jungler for Unicorns of Love?
Kha'Zix.
Kha'Zix. Yeah, I think that after level 6, Victor might have a bad time, because Kha'Zix can evolve R and just jump from the mid lane to the guy and slow him down, and Corki will just W after he flashes and kill him. So Eka have to be very careful. And by the way, did Vega ban Sejuani?
Vega Squadron bought Sejuani themselves.
So they banned Sejuani and blind picked Olaf.
Yes.
Isn't that weird? Because if you're Olaf, you would love to have Sejuani in enemy team.
Yeah, that's what I'm not getting. Like, it was sure for like 99% I was sure that they're not going to show the mid lane on the 4th pick, right? You're going for the jungler. You want a blind pick jungler. I feel like Olaf is not the best blind pick in the current meta. He's okay, depending on what you want to do, because like, even if he has bad matchups, he still farms really quickly, probably one of the fastest ones. And
he can do solo drakes.
He can get solo drakes and all that jazz. But the problem is that I still feel like Sejuani would have been better, and especially like why would you be afraid of Sejuani yourself? But we'll see it in the game, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first game of LCL Finals, Unicorns of Love versus Vega Squadron. Let's roll.
I kind of feel that Vega's pick is more like competitive, and blue side Unicorns of Love pick is kind of solo queue-ish. But I think that's because of Kha'Zix alone.
Yes, that's
Like,
what
I'm
I
not
wanted to
used to
say.
see
That's
him.
by the way, Kha'Zix is feeling very strong right now in solo queue. He has been forgotten for some time, but as every good Mantis does, he reminds of himself with the damage that he has available to him. The red trinket is going to be popped by Creox.
Famous Creox invade.
They get the first ward, and Creox is going to start with the enemy Raptors. And we see that Ananasic actually starts on the blue. Is he going to go for an invade himself? That's a questionable idea, I'd say. Right now, Discoteca is trading with Nomans, and Nomans is losing, but yeah, he lost quite a bit of HP, but he has the corrupting potion, so he should be fine.
So it's kind of worth it for him to trade, even like that. Okay,
I mean, yeah, with Klepto, you want to exchange auto attacks with your opponent. I guess we have to see how it ends up working for him. We see that Ananasic actually invades in response. He gets the red side of Creox. He's losing a lot of HP, but he's not in any immediate danger right now. He should be fine. I wonder if Olaf could have protected his red side. I feel like no, just because the fact that Doxy is being pushed hard by Boss, actually. Maybe we'll see a dive. Right now, the wave is stacking.
That's famous Boss and Ananasic dive. Top lane, level 3.
Yes, that's how they got their first success, right? Ananasic playing a lot of duo queue with Boss.
Camille Trundle combo.
Camille Trundle combo where they were diving every game. But Ananasic is very low on HP, so it's kind of risky, I'd say, and the wave is already done with. Aatrox does have some wave clear built into his kit with the Darkin Blade, so he should be more or less okay. We're not on the new patch, the 9.18, where Aatrox got gutted in terms of wave clear and sustain. Here he should be more or less fine, even though it's still an unfavorable matchup for him, especially when Boss gets the Executioner's calling.
Okay, let's talk about time. Time works for what? For which team? What do you think?
It's kind of hard to say because
right team has AD carry.
I want to say the right team, just because they have the ADC and Victor. On the other side, we just have the Corki. And I mean, Inex, even though Garen Yuumi works great, I actually haven't seen a lot of like deep late game Garen Yuumis, to be fair. All the games were like
kind of short.
30 minutes tops. So it's, I'd say it's hard to judge what they're capable of, but Garen usually, if we talk in terms of solo queue, is not something that you want to scale up with, right?
Right, he's a lane bully champion, or at least was lane bully champion.
I mean, at least in top lane, he's all about bullying the lane, getting the advantage, and then pushing through with that advantage. And I'm not sure that Unicorns actually want to scale up, especially like the only problematic point for Vega Squadron when it comes to scaling is the Olaf pick. All the other champions are great at 6 items.
Yeah, and which the interesting thing is that Vega has Olaf, right? And not very okay.
The dive coming in. Darkin Blades are used. He hits 2, he hits 3, and the teleport comes, but it's not gonna be enough. That's the first blood by Ananasic. And even the TP from Nomans comes in to save the day, but it was too late.
Very good dive by Unicorns of Love, but I don't think that TP was necessary. At first I thought that it's someone from Vega is doing TP to protect Doxy, but it was Nomans just for the sake of teleport, I guess. What I was saying that any left Unicorns of Love team has 3 melee champions and 1 Corki against Aatrox, Rakan, Olaf, and Victor.
That is true. Let's see the replay. Right now, Doxy didn't manage to hit the critical point of the last Darkin Blade, and because of that, he was executed. Boss with the PTA has enough burst damage, especially paired up with Kha'Zix. So the only thing that Vega Squadron can do in response is get the Ocean Drake, which is actually a very useful pickup right now. We know that early Ocean helps the laning phase a lot. It helps you with the sustain. Victor is gonna be very happy about the mana as well. So right now the only problem is the top side for Vega Squadron, because right now Boss can freeze a huge wave next to his turret, and that would mean that Doxy is gonna have a lot of problems trying to farm it up.
And Boss has BF Sword already.
He goes immediately for Sojin.
Yeah, that's a regular thing right now, I think.
I mean, yes, but, yes and no at the same time, because you want to see an early Executioners against Aatrox, because this is what helps you a lot with the all-ins, because we know that during every trade, Aatrox gains some HP with the passive, with the damage that he deals, and cutting that by half, I mean, mostly by half,
but yeah,
a bit less than a half, is a great thing to do, right? You basically, with the cutting of sustain, like Aatrox tanks from the, with the term of drain tanking, where you survive because of the sustain, and this is the crucial part of his kit. So I would say that cutting it down would be a great idea. We see that Doxy doesn't go for any early armor items, which...
Yeah, he's going for CDR immediately. Okay, fight at bot lane.
The fight at bot lane happens, but this is just a trade. The knockup was there, but we know that Inax is gonna sustain a lot. He is the Garen, and he has a Yuumi. Another wave is stacked against Doxy. This time, Kreox has to come help, because if another dive is successful, this is the end of the line for Aatrox.
Yeah, I feel like in the next 3 minutes, everything will be about top lane side of the map.
Oh, and Kreox is gonna get punished. The flash is there from Boss, but the flash is there from Kreox, and he escapes with his life. Boss
failed E. I think he failed E, no?
I feel like, yeah, right? He used the flash, and he wasn't able to catch up with Olaf. They were trying to go for the red buff invade, but it was not successful. No man's.
That's actually a huge win for side of Vega, because now Boss doesn't have access to his R, and that's a very huge tool in for diving top lane. Kananasik is still there, by the way. He's fishing for something. He wants this red buff. Whoop, no.
He's actually level 5. He has to jump away and maybe has to flash.
Oh, no,
the undertow connects, but Kreox suddenly does not decide to go for it.
Yeah, he was afraid of
yeah, because Nomans was coming. Nomans was coming, and because of that, the dive, I mean, the chase was cancelled by Kreox. He didn't have the flash, but I feel like he could have at least pressured Ananasik into losing his flash, at least.
But maybe it's because of finals. He played that moment a bit scared. I think.
Maybe. And this is one of the points that he actually mentioned in the interview, where he said that their main problem was the fact that they were scared during the regular split when they were playing against stronger opponents, stronger at least in terms of like the expectations from the analysts and viewers.
Look at the plates. 3 plates already gone on the bot lane. Gadget is ahead of 700 gold already. I think that's big.
This is very big, but this is kind of what we expect from Rakan Xayah bot lane when they're against Garen Yuumi. Garen Yuumi is still a melee champion and half a champion put together. It's not like they're great at clearing waves. They're more about like sustaining through the lane and then being more effective in the mid game, because we know that Xayah kind of needs 3 items to hit the power spike of her like teamfight presence, and Garen needs just 1.
Tabis.
Yes, which is an item for 1,010 and 100 gold, which is not compared to 3 items with the Infinity Edge, Essence River, and another Zeal item.
Look at the boss build. Are you proud?
I haven't seen it yet.
Executioners.
Oh, yes, I'm proud. Okay, Kreox has to use his ulti because he was slowed by the prowling projectile. Yes, now I'm more than proud of Boss. I feel like this is the correct way to build against Aatrox. Maybe to be fair, maybe he just had like 1,300 gold and he was like, yeah, I should go for BF. This is the bigger spike. And I would totally get it. I do it all the time. Even in solo queue. Okay, and Anasik is there.
Something is
Ulti
happening
comes
bot
in,
lane.
Gadget is rooted, but there is an ulti from Santos that dissuades the dive. Actually, they're going forward themselves, and Anasik jumps in, but there is the Featherstorm from Zaya, and the flash from Boss. No, I mean, the E from Boss is enough to pick up a kill onto Kraox, and Gadget is not able to pick up a kill in response onto Anasik. A good TP from the top side. Kraox, I mean, Doxy didn't have his. It was a smidge off cooldown, like a little bit. I feel like if the TP was there, it would have been a great play by Vega Squadron. Unfortunately, right now it means a kill and an Infernal Drake to boot with that kill, which is very unfortunate for Vega Squadron. Right now we see that there is the gap in gold is increasing. It's around 1.5k gold, I'd say.
Yeah, but I think that's not very disturbing for Vega right now, because they're playing scale game with Zaya Rakan, with Victor. But still, I really enjoy how Unicorns of Love utilize their teleports. Like, even the first one from Nomons was not really needed, but he used that kind of offensively, and now Boss used his TP to help his teammates, while Vega is using teleports just to come back to lane.
Right now, yes, but we see another usage of TP from Vega Squadron because Gadget is TPing to the top side of the map to immediately get Herald, and this is a very good play, I'd say, by Vega Squadron, because Unicorns of Love were nowhere near to disturb this objective, which means that this is going to be Herald coming for Vega Squadron, and this is very important because they can now get several plates with it, at least two. This is the rule of thumb of a Herald. The 320 gold, which is going to be summoned immediately, and we see a TP coming in from Garen and Yuumi as well, because Yuumi is using the taxi from Demacia.
No one got gold?
No one got gold. Ooh. This is a very sad day for Vega Squadron because they didn't manage to get the gold or the turret. It means that they're basically... They wasted the Herald.
Yes.
They wasted the Herald. Now they're going for an aggressive
Something is
play.
gonna happen.
Boss is gonna get ulted. He has some HP to work with. He dashes away to safety. Gadget is engaged on by Anasik, and he's killed immediately by Inex. That's the Demacian justice for you. And Nomans is gonna try to chase down Doxy. Doxy doesn't have a flash anymore, and Edward picks up the kill. And this is a 3-4-0 exchange in favor of Unicorns of Love. What a tragedy.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking Infernal Drake in 3 minutes. And Unicorns of Love already have 3k lead gold, 3k gold lead. I think if they take Inferno, that's just very, very hard game to come back for Vega.
Yeah, talk about scaling when you have like 3 Infernals. The scaling doesn't apply anymore, and unfortunately for Vega Squadron, they started that fight. I wish we see the replay of that immediately. With Gadget having no Featherstorm, which meant that if Anasik dives him, he basically dies to damage of Kha'Zix. Let's see the replay. They actually engaged onto Boss, but he didn't get knocked up, and he managed to slice and dice away. And we see that on the backside, Anasik actually engaged onto Gadget. And as we said before the match, damage from Kha'Zix and the execution from Garen, that's enough to get the Zaya back off the field, let's say. And with Zaya gone and Victor not having the items yet, without the damage, there's nothing Vega Squadron could do.
I think it's not even about Victor's items. I think in general, Nomans is playing more proactively on a pick, which got counter-pick.
Okay, we see the ultimate from Yuumi. Gadget is gonna get rooted, and Nomans is gonna pick up an easy kill for himself.
Yes.
Yes, Nomans roaming, but to be fair, you don't expect Victor to roam a lot, just because he doesn't have, like even Orianna, the other control mage, has at least some speed ups in her kit. Victor cannot speed up unless he hits something with a Q. And that means that he's very, like, this is the problem with the Victor pick. He counters Corki in lane, like one-on-one, and in the side lane later on, but I feel like it's not the best pick in terms of following your opponent, and Eka cannot do anything right now. I mean, he's not maybe even trying. I'm trying to, let's say, be the devil's advocate here, but that means that Corki is now 102, and he's ahead in farm.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, that Nomans roamed a lot, and he was playing not very good matchup, like equal or even a bit losing to Victor in lane, but he's still ahead in farm and ahead in like action on the map. He's everywhere, while Echo is farming and he's worse even at farming.
Yes, this is not something you want to see. This is the complete solo queue moment, you know, when enemy mid laner is roaming and you're pressing tab, at least hoping that your mid laner has like 30 plus CS. This is not the case here. And unfortunately, I have to say that it's not just Nomans. It's Vega playing, Unicorns of Love playing more proactively, I'd say. Even though the main fight that actually got the advantage, like the main two fights actually, that got the Unicorns of Love the advantage, were forced by Vega Squadron, but they just didn't have the resources or the position to win that fight. Gadget is gonna get engaged on once again, and he's just executed immediately. He's just straight up murdered by Inex, Nomans, and Edward, who is attached to the Corgi right now, and who said that cats cannot work with dogs.
They're trying to catch Boss, but I think Boss is dead here, or he flashes away
and that's it. He should be fine right now.
Yes, he's alive. Very good play by Boss.
And the game is turning into a complete nightmare right now for Vega Squadron. You send 3 people to the top lane and you just get a flash? That's not something that you would like to see. A very, very bad performance, I'd say.
Mid lane for that.
They lose the tier 2. This is the third. This is actually the first turret that they managed to destroy in the top lane, just by forcing Boss to get away. But I feel like he was happy to trade his flash for that, because his team got 2 turrets. This is now 3-1 in terms of turrets, 7-0 in terms of kills, and there is around 7k gold lead creeping up.
Plus 2 Infernals.
And we add up 2 Infernals over that. This feels like an order from some like food delivery, you know, where you're like burger, good, fries, good, and then on top of that you get free ketchup, which is going to be the Infernals in this analogy. I'm sorry, I'm very hungry. This is what I'm talking about, food. But to be fair, right now, Vega Squadron, the Sharks, are the food for the mythical Unicorns of Love, because I feel like they're making no mistakes and there is almost no point of pressure for Vega Squadron.
What are their openings? What do you think? How do you see their win condition from this huge deficit?
The problem is that you have to stall the game right now. You have the instruments for that, but the problem starts creeping up a bit when the Unicorns of Love just go for a Nashor. How are you gonna... They're gonna tank it endlessly because they have Yuumi Garen.
Yeah, and I feel like the Unicorns of Love don't even need Nashor because they have Renekton and Garen plus Yuumi, so they can even dive the Vega Squadron team. They all squishy, right? Raken is squishy, Zai is squishy, Victor is squishy. All of if he presses his R, he loses his resists, right?
Yes.
So he's kind of squishy as well.
I mean, he is squishy, even though Krayox went for the health enchantment in the jungle, and he has another Ruby Crystal to work with, and the Ninja Tabai. This is still not enough to withstand the damage coming from Boss, who already built the Sojin Spear. And on top of that, you have a Corki with 2 items. Corki with the Trinity Force and with the Rapid Fire Cannon at 20 minutes.
And with 2 Infernals.
And with 2 Infernals on top. This is a very scary Corki. And even though the skin is all about cuteness, this is not cute at all. This is the Corgi that is Corgi that is going to murder everyone he sees. And yes, this is a very good point. The Unicorns of Love don't actually need to set up objectives and stuff, even though they can do that. I feel like you're right. They can just go for dives. And whenever, for example, whenever Zaya's ultimate is not on cooldown, Yuumi's ultimate is basically a death sentence.
I think even Zaya's ultimate doesn't help against the Yuumi R if Zaya is mispositioned.
Well, that is true. Just because the duration is way too long, and you cannot
She sends 5 waves, 6 waves?
7 waves.
7
waves,
yes.
And you need to hit 3 in order to get the root. And on top of that, you will have Garen charging at you at top speed with the silence, which is another important factor. The very uncomfortable mechanic to deal with in the Garen's kit is the silence, because whenever he gets the jump on you, he's gonna do the damage. There's no way you can disengage from it. There's no way you can use a flash or any sort of escape.
Yeah, also don't forget about Kazakh's W.
And Kha'Zix is, yeah, I mean, Ananasik is
90%
doing
slow.
great. He's 301. He has the Duskblade already built. And with some items under his belt, with the level 11, so with the constant slow that he's going to be able to provide for his team, this is even more assassination potential. And he has the damage, you know? This is Kha'Zix we're talking about. Whoever is left alone is basically food for Ananasik. Kreox is getting slow, but he's way too close to his base. Boss is going to charge at Doxy. He deals a lot of damage to him, and then Ananasik tries to run him down, but Doxy had the ulti, and now we have the fight in the top lane. Gadget is left alone, and he's destroyed by Nomans. Edward survives after taking a few third shots. This is not going to be enough, and we have almost 9k lead right now. Another turret falls. This is the 5th one in favor of Unicorns of Love, and it's getting more and more grim for Vega Squadron in this match.
Like, if I was Vega, I would start thinking about the second game, to be honest. I don't think that they even stand a chance in this particular game. I think it's all about Unicorns of Love already, and I don't feel like team like Unicorns of Love can throw that kind of a lead with their pick. Because picking like stuff like Garen, Kha'Zix, Renekton, something that has escape, something that has tools to survive even if enemy teams try to catch you.
Even with three people.
Yes, I think that's a
Let's see
recipe
the
for
replay
not
here
throwing
on the
game.
top side. Yes, this is the Feather Storm being completely negated by the fact that there is nowhere for Gadget to go. And we see the coach of Vega Squadron that I feel like the fact that he just took off his headset is exactly the thing that you said about already thinking about the next game, because this game feels like a disaster for Vega Squadron. And probably the most important thing is that players don't tilt. They don't
it's
get
a best
upset.
of 5 series.
Yeah, it's a
first
series. The first match, probably, I mean, there could have been some strategic mistakes from Vega Squadron. Let's see if there is a fight. Santos is way too close to comfort, and there is a good package from Normans. He's getting damage done to Santos, but meanwhile we see that Gadget is already dead by the Demas Injustice, and now Boss is coming for another kill. He gets slowed by Doxy, but Unicorns of Love, Edward is the one to pick up a kill with the prolonged projectile, and now Inex is gonna chase down Doxy. The slow comes from Yumi. The silence is there, and Doxy, can you survive this? No. Oh, yes! He actually survived. No! There is the ace by Nomans. That cheeky auto attack is the last thing needed to get the last kill of that fight. This is the destruction of Vega Squadron. The Sharks are on the shore. They cannot breathe and they cannot do anything.
They didn't even need Nashers for that. They just like
they just run them down.
Yes, like that's what Garen does, actually.
And he has the power spike. He has the ninja tabe. So he doesn't really need anything. I feel like this was a mistake from Vega Squadron. They were way too close with Normans having the package that would separate the fight, that would make Vega Squadron run. They cannot kite just because they don't have enough tools to kite Garen with the Yumi speed-ups, with the ulti.
They don't have enough go to do that.
Yeah, let's see here. We see that Kreox and Gadget and Santos were trying to trap Unicorns of Love, and we saw what happened to Gadget once the Yumi ulti was onto him. He just got demolished. The damage is enough with a prolonged projectile to pick up Kreox, and they even chased down Doxy. We see the smile on Nomans' face. I feel like even though he had to go for Corki once again, even though he said that's in the past, I'm no longer a player on a Corki Ariana player. Still, whenever you pick up a Corki and you go 307, you should feel fine.
I think that Nomans is satisfied with this game. It's not about even Corki pick. He played that Corki pick like it was a Twisted Fate pick. He was all over the map. He was winning his lane. And in general, I think like Nomans is kind of hidden MVP of this game for me, because he was looking very good when I was comparing him and Eka, Discoteca.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the matchup in the mid lane a lot. Even though Nomans got destroyed by Eka twice in the semifinals last year, this is not the case here. He was on the map where he actually made Eka look invisible, to be fair. Like, Victor was nothing. He wasn't a factor in this game at all. And we know that Victor needs a lot of time to scale up, and when the game is accelerated like this, there is pretty much nothing you can do. Unicorns of Love picked up an easy Baron, now sieging the mid lane turret. We see the waves of supers that are coming from the top side, and there's a flank. Doxy is coming from behind. The ulti from Santos doesn't hit anyone, and it's just Doxy who is on the front line trying to do some damage, and he's executed by the Demacian Knight with the Garen's ultimate. Now the slow prowling projectile. Just the prowling projectile forces the Featherstorm from Xayah, and that means that another inhibitor will fall. The super minions are there, and the Nasher buff is also there. The first turret is half HP. It's gonna go down really quickly with the items that Unicorns of Love are having under their belt, and the second turret is falling as well. Nomans is getting the stats of the damage dealt during the game up by harassing the enemies under the fountain, but that's it. That's the first game, and that was a show from Unicorns of Love. They basically made no mistakes. They were always on top of their opponents, but we see that Vega Squadron are smiling, so this is fine. I'd say that there was a strategic mistake. I feel like they were not prepared that Unicorns of Love can go for the Garen Yuumi pick. I feel like that was the main deal. Those are not the casters. We are the casters. Anyway.
Yeah, two things I want to talk about. First, I think Vega disrespected in draft, letting Yuumi open and just answering Xayah Raken into them. That was number one mistake. And second mistake is Eka playing Victor. And I'm saying exactly Eka playing Victor, not Victor pick. He was going Comet, Arcane Comet into Kleptomancy. That kind of makes Victor dominate the lane, no? He has more poke. He should dominate the lane. He should win in CS. And if your opponent is roaming, you have to take turret plates, or you roam with him. He did nothing. He lost in CS, and he let basically Nomos win the map. So 2 points. And I think in the next game they should focus on draft first of all, not letting broken Yuumi open, and think about pick on which Eka can perform, do something in the game.
Maybe that's the case, but we'll see we'll see everything that the adaptations, the changes coming from Vega Squadron in the next game. Right now we have to take a small break, but we're gonna be back with the second game of the series. Don't go anywhere.